Good afternoon. I'm Councilmember Idenique Miller, and I'm the chair of the Committee on Civil Service and Labor. I'd like to thank my colleague, Ampy Samuels, for allowing me a quick committee vote to be held on a very important resolution that we introduced, 655, which was first heard at a December hearing. It calls upon the mayor of the city of New York to grant unlimited sick leave to all civilian officers and employees of this great city who are seeking treatment for qualifying World Trade Center conditions. Like their uniformed colleagues, these civilian New York City employees rushed to ground zero on September 11, 2001, and in the ensuing days, weeks, months, helped in rescue, recoveries, and cleanup efforts. Like their uniformed colleagues, these civilian employees deserve unlimited sick leave in order to get the treatment that they need for the diseases that they got while working at ground zero. It's time for the city to take care of its own, and that includes those who selflessly risk their lives at ground zero. I now ask the clerk for a vote.
William Martin, Committee Clerk. Roll call vote, Committee on Civil Service and Labor. Resolution 655. Chair Miller.
I vote aye.
Drum.
Aye.
King.
Commissioner, explain my vote. Chair. First, I want you to add me on to this resolution. We are all city workers, and we all have a commitment to show up each and every day to do what we can to protect New York, serve New York, more importantly, provide for our families. And I think at a day and age when we hit a wall in this world where we were attacked, that we still have New Yorkers who are struggling to get health care or have time off without losing any money to be able to provide for their families. I think it's unconscionable that anybody who's sitting in an administration think that this should be a negotiated conversation as opposed to just taking care of the people, especially our union brothers and sisters who showed up when we didn't show up. We people in New York didn't go downtown to the World Trade Center. But if you were down there helping New York get itself together, you should be treated as such. You should be treated special, not that you got to negotiate your life again. So I'm asking you to continue to push the mayor and push the administration to do right by our New Yorkers, and I'm voting yes on this resolution and asking everybody in the city of New York to look out for our first responders and everyone who helped us get through 9/11. Thank you, and I vote aye.
Mizell.
Yes.
Adams.
I echo the sentiments of my colleague from the Bronx. Please add my name to this resolution. I vote aye.
Ulrich.
Permission to explain my vote. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to be added as a co-sponsor to the bill and also echo my support for the first responders, civilian and uniformed, who answered the call to help their fellow New Yorkers during our darkest time, during and after 9/11. And I think, quite frankly, we haven't done enough to help those people get tested and treated for the diseases that they're now being diagnosed with. So we have to do more to help our fellow New Yorkers who were there for us when we needed them, and I'm proud to vote in favor of this resolution.
By a vote of 6 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and no abstentions, resolution has been adopted by the committee.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Committee on Land Use. I am Councilmember Rafael Salamanca, Chair of this committee. Today we'll be voting on 4 projects referred out of the Zoning and Planning Subcommittees. We'll vote to approve LUS 312, an application by Carey's Hospitality, LLC, DBA, Elder Greene, for a revocable consent to maintain, operate, and use an unenclosed sidewalk cafe at 160 Franklin Street in Councilmember Levin's district in Brooklyn. The applicant has agreed to reduce the size of the proposed cafe in order to address community concerns. We'll be voting to approve LUs 310 and 311, Waterside Plaza, an application to facilitate the preservation of 325 affordable housing units at 10, 20, 25, 30, and 40 Waterside Plaza in Manhattan in Councilmember Powell's district. HPD is requesting approval of a disposition of city-owned property and amendment to the Waterside Urban Renewal Plan for an additional 47 years for a total unexpired term of 99-year term, extending to 2116. Upon approval, HPD will enter into a new ground lease with the owner. The terms of the ground lease will preserve residential affordability by incorporating rent freezes, rent reductions, and limits on rent increases for the affected tenants. We will also be voting to approve LUs 313, 4697 3rd Avenue, a UDAP application filed by the HPD. This disposition of 2 city-owned vacant lots will facilitate the development of a new mixed-use 8-story building providing 52 units of affordable housing in Councilmember Torres' district in the Bronx. This project will be developed under the HPD ELA project, and 15% of the units will be reserved for formerly homeless households. Are there any questions or remarks from members of the committee? I see Councilmember Powers.
Thank you, Chair Salamanca. Thank you, members of the Land Use Committee, for affording me an opportunity to speak on the application before you today for Waterside Plaza. Waterside Plaza is a neighborhood located in my district that is a former Mitchell-Lama Mitchell-Lama that exited the program in 2001. When they exited, like many Mitchell-Lamas, they were left with a question about what would be the long-term affordability of the plaza and the people that live there. Unfortunately, they were not subject to rent regulation, rent stabilization, because of the year and a quirk in the law that made it so that they would have to go into a settling agreement with the owner and to have high increases year after year. That has left us in the year 2018 or 2019, I guess now, with very high rents in a neighborhood that was built to be an affordable neighborhood and built to be a long-term community that many of us aspire we could still build here in New York City. So with the partnership of the owner there, which is our former Lieutenant Governor Dick Ravitch, with the Tenants Association, with HPD, and with the fellow elected officials that share this community, we have spent the last year negotiating to do an affordability deal here to lower the rents, to freeze some rents, and to address both the long-term affordability by putting 75 years of affordability into Waterside, but also addressing the tenants that live there today and making their rents more affordable and making many of the residents who are seniors look at this as their home for years ahead. In that last year, we have been going back and forth, but I have to say that today I sit here very happy with the deal that we have come to and very pleased. I think it sets a model for other affordable housing deals, especially those that can do both the immediacy of the tenants that live there, but also the long-term affordability. So I'm very happy that we have come to a resolution and come to an agreement on this deal. And I said this in an article about it, but I will say it again, is rarely do you have somebody who is civic-minded as the landlord and the property owner of a property. That makes it incredibly easier to do a deal when you talk about real people's lives and putting people before other considerations. So I'm very grateful to the team at Waterside as well for that. So thank you, and I urge your support of it today. Thank you.
I will now call a vote in accordance with recommendations of the local members and the subcommittees to approve LUs 310, 311, 312, and 313. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Matthew DiStefano, Committee Clerk, Committee on Land Use. Roll call vote on the aforementioned LUs with accompanying resolutions. Chair Salamanca.
Aye on all.
Kalos.
I don't know.
Gibson.
Aye on all.
Barron. Constantinides. Deutsch.
Aye, no.
Koo. Levin.
Aye.
Torres.
Aye and all.
Traeger. Grodenchik. Adams. Diaz.
Yes, I'm here.
Want to recognize that Councilmember Diaz has arrived.
I know.
Moya.
No.
Rivera.
Aye.
By a vote of 15 in affirmative, 0 in the negative, and no abstentions, the land use items have been adopted.
I would like to thank the members of the public, my colleagues, council, and land use staff for attending today's hearing. We will leave the roll open for 10 minutes. Thank you.
Good morning and welcome to Subcommittee on Planning, Dispositions, and Concessions. I'm Councilmember Ben Kalos, Chair of the Subcommittee. Today we'll be voting on two projects we heard on January 14th. Land use items 310 and 311, Waterside Plaza. Land use item 313, 4697 3rd Avenue. We will be voting to approve land use items 310 and 311 Waterside Plaza. Application to facilitate the preservation of 325 affordable housing units at 10, 20, 25, 30, and 40 Waterside Plaza in Kips Bay, Manhattan, and Councilmember Powers District. HPD is requesting approval of the disposition of city-owned land and amendment to the Waterside Urban Renewal Plan for an additional 47 years for a total unexpired term of 99 years, extending to 2116. Upon approval, HPD will enter into a new ground lease with the owner. The terms of the ground lease will preserve residential affordability by incorporating rent freezes, rent reductions, and limits on rent increases for affected tenants. We'll also be voting to approve land use item 313, 4697 3rd Avenue application that will facilitate the development of a new mixed-use 8-story building, providing 52 units of affordable housing in Councilmember Torres' district in the Bronx. This project will be developed under HPD's ELA program, and 15% of the units will be reserved for formerly homeless households. HPD seeks an urban development action area designation project approved on disposition of approval for the site, which currently contains 2 vacant lots and were used as a parking lot for city vehicles. I would like to now invite our council to please call the roll.
This is a vote to approve LUs 310, 311, and 313. Chair Kalos.
Aye and all.
Gibson.
I vote aye.
Deutsch.
Aye.
Diaz.
I know.
By a vote of 4 in the affirmative, no negatives, and no abstentions, the land use items are approved and referred to the full land use committee.
We'll now close the vote. That concludes today's hearing. I'd like to thank the council and land use staff for preparing today's hearing, and the members of the public and my colleagues for attending. This meeting is hereby adjourned.
Good morning and welcome to the meeting of the Subcommittee on Zoning and Franchises. I'm Councilmember Francisco Moya, the chairperson of this subcommittee. Today we will vote to approve LU 312, an application heard by this subcommittee at the public hearing of January 10th, 2019 by Carey's Hospitality LLC, Elder Greene, for a revocable consent to maintain, operate, and use an unenclosed sidewalk cafe at 160 Franklin Street in Councilmember Levin's district in Brooklyn. We will be voting to approve this cafe, the size of which has been adjusted in response to community concerns.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate land use staff and the land use subcommittee working with my office on this issue. This was an application for Sidewalk Cafe at a pre-existing sidewalk. The pre-existing business establishment had a Sidewalk Cafe, although in a different configuration. The community organized around this issue, collected over 100 signatures in opposition. Ultimately, community engaged effectively with the applicant, and they came up with a solution that was not dictated by my office. They were able to come up with a solution themselves, and so we're happy to ratify that here at the subcommittee, and I urge my colleagues to vote aye. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman. I now call for a vote to approve LU 312. Council, please call the roll.
Chair Moya.
Aye.
Constantinides.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Rivera. Aye. Torres.
Aye.
Grodenchik.
Aye.
Richards.
Aye.
By a vote of 7 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 0 abstentions, LU 312 is approved and referred to the full Land Use Committee.
This concludes today's meeting, and I would like to thank the members of the public, my colleagues, council, and the land use staff for attending. This meeting is hereby adjourned.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the hearing of the For-Hire Vehicle Committee. I am Councilman Ruben Diaz, Sr., the chair of the committee. Today we will be voting on two pieces of legislation that will continue to expand the work that this committee has done over the past year to improve the for-hire vehicle industry. The first bill, proposed introduction 1078, sponsored by Councilmember Moya, will require the Taxi and Limousine Commission to promulgate rules related to leases, rental, and conditional purchase of hire vehicles. This will help increase transparency on these types of transactions and improve the economic well-being of drivers in the industry. The second bill, proposed introduction 897A, sponsored by Councilmember Miller, will ensure the overall safety of the people who rely on commuters' vans for transportation services by strengthening the licensing requirements of commuter van drivers and increasing the penalties of those that allow unlicensed drivers to use their van. I recommend a yes vote on both bills. And now, saying that, will the clerk please call the roll call?
William Martin, Committee Clerk, roll call vote, Committee on For-Hire Vehicles. Both items are coupled. Chair Diaz.
Yes on all.
Constantinides.
Aye and all.
Rodriguez.
Aye.
Vallone.
Aye.
By vote of 4 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and no abstentions, both items have been adopted by the committee.
Good afternoon. My name is Councilman Chaim Deitch. I'm chair of the Veterans Committee. I would like to thank you for joining us today, and I'd like to extend my warm welcome to the veterans who have joined us here this morning. The Department of Veterans Service, DVS, has been actively helping our veterans for almost 3 years now. Since its creation through local law in 2015, the DVS has grown to a robust agency that operates an impressive array of programs. These programs, such as Vet Connect and Vet Drive NYC, help veterans by connecting them with affordable housing, providing assistance to find and apply for good-paying jobs, referring them to legal and benefits assistance services, and helping them appropriate mental health care treatment when they need it. DVS also has liaisons with every other city agency to ensure that veterans have the smoothest possible interactions with city government. Now that the department is fully operational and fully staffed, it is appropriate for us to track its services in a comprehensive and holistic way. In order to figure out what is working and what is not working for our veterans, manage and improve the services that we render, we must first have tangible and reliable data on the day-to-day operations of the department. I am proud to sponsor the bill under consideration. Proposed introduction 1118A would require DVS to submit an annual report to the council in which it would specify the services it provides at all of its locations, as well as the number of its employees and a summary of their responsibilities. In addition, this report would include an accounting of not only the number of veterans who have inquired about DVS services, but also the number of veterans who have received services from DVS and the means by which they learned about the agency. Those who have served this country in uniform deserve the very best when they come home. My hope is that this bill will allow us to discover patterns in the veterans community and discern that they are asking for, what DVS is providing, and how the council and agency can continue working together to serve our city veterans. By passing this bill, we will ensure that the department continues its upward trajectory and remains an example for the rest of the country to follow. Can I ask the clerk to call for a vote?
William Martin, Committee Clerk. Roll call vote, Committee on Veterans. Introduction 1118-A. Chair Deutsch.
I vote aye.
Eugene.
I vote aye.
Mizell.
Yes.
Valone.
Yes.
Brannon.
Yep.
By a vote of 5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and no abstention, item has been adopted by the committee.
Thank you. We are now adjourned.